Hello, hello, hello. Well, welcome to the breakfast. I'm looking for Tom Gennari, paging Mr. Gennari, Mr. McKeague, Ryan McKeague. All right, great. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming to our Fabric breakfast. I'm sorry the line was so long. You got some bagels and some coffee. We couldn't be more excited to be here. This morning to talk through our plans about the future of Fabric and what we're doing. For those of you in the audience, and I see lots of friendly, familiar faces and some new ones, we have been, and for those who haven't been following us, we've made a couple of acquisitions and mergers over the last year, and we've spent a lot of time looking through the product suite that we have, as well as what the industry is looking for. And that's what we're going to present today is really that through line of how it works together and the direction that we're marching in.
So, the original title of this session per Rob was going to be like, what the blank is Fabric doing?
You're not supposed to say that.
I didn't say the blank, and that's an improvement for me. So yeah, it's, we're excited to tell you that.
Do I have the power? I have the power. This is great. So I'll do a quick round of introductions. So my name is Rob Delf. I was formerly the founder and CEO of a company called RightsLine. And I'm now the RightsLine. Where's my RightsLine people? Yes, there we are. And I'm now the CEO of Fabric. So I'll pass it along to my colleague, Kira.
Hi, I am the Chief Revenue Officer at Fabric, and I also worked with Rob at RightsLine, and a big shout out to RightsLine, who's got a really awesome purple booth in the middle over there. And I'm super happy to be here and to see so many familiar and new friendly faces.
Hey, everyone. Ryan McKeague, CTO at Fabric, formerly at Amazon Web Services, where my AWS people at. I've been working with Rob and Kira and the RightsLine team for a few years before I joined Fabric.
Good morning. Almost there. Yes. No. Kind of. Okay. Thank you. Tom Gennari. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm former CEO of BB Media and as of just 1 month, Chief Data Officer at Fabric. Thank you everyone for coming.
All right, great. So I just want to get into I think it's helpful to understand the background of where we got to before we jump in to provide some context. So in 2021, I had recently exited from RightsLine, and there was a company in London called Fabric Studio, or it was called Fabric then, that had a software as a service title master. So really all it did was focus on one thing, which is solving this problem that's been inherent in the industry forever, which is knowing exactly what the thing you're distributing is, or the thing you're acquiring, or the thing you're producing. So a canonical single source of truth as a title master. That went really well, but along the way, what we figured out is that our user base doesn't like to enter data into applications. One of the issues around the title masters being all over the map is for that reason. So in 2022, we acquired a company called the Internet Video Archive. And there's a man here by the name of Rhodes Mason, who, if you don't know, where is he? Right there. If you don't know him, you should get to know him. He's a wonderful guy, and Origin brings this body of data along so that when our users in Fabric Studio are typing in, hey, I just licensed Top Gun, it says, do you mean this one? And brings in all of the data that you'd ever need to distribute that on a consumer app, on a platform, wherever it might be. All API driven. It's got the world's largest catalog of trailers to power these different streaming services. So that was a big step up for us, and powered sort of like the next year and a half of growth. And then we moved forward to 2024. And we were approached by a private equity firm, Banneker Partners, I see a couple of them here. We had this opportunity to merge the company with Xytech. And I think everyone in this room's probably maybe even worked with Xytech. It is an iconic, amazing platform with a tremendous amount of functionality, features, and it has a lot of legacy. So combining what we're doing with sort of like a title master, and I like to rationalize acquisitions in one simple way, which is I look at how many times one product is integrated with the target or acquisition software. And when it came to Fabric and Xytech, it was all throughout our customer base. We were sharing title information back and forth, and it's like, okay, now I understand. It's kind of pushing these things along. And now we get to 5 weeks ago, Tom Gennari and his dad, Horatio, built this amazing company called BB Media down in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And it follows along the same lines as Origin, which is data product, but it adds on this tremendous amount of information around the supply side of streaming services and the demand side. So what's out there and how is everything performing? And Tom's going to get into that later in this presentation. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Kira, to talk through how those things then come together in a chain.
Thank you. Actually, before I do that, I just want to take a moment because we just walked through the history and the mergers and acquisitions. I know we called a few team members out, but one of the hardest things about bringing companies together is actually coming together. And a lot of different companies came together over the past few months. And I would just like to acknowledge our team because I think we have really come together. And I think that's why a lot of you are here, right? Because you know us from the past, you know us from the different companies. And I hope that, as you leave here, you see us now as one company, with a bunch of different solutions that fit together and one really incredible team. So to the team that's come together, thank you guys. So when we talk about the vision, which, the what the blank is Fabric doing, I don't know if everybody got to attend some of the other sessions, but there was one on Saturday with the Devoncroft a session that really resonated with what the blank we were doing. And that was really about looking at where there's an area of challenge in the media and entertainment industry, which I know many of you, and I know many of you personally know this. But there is this explosion of data, right? Explosion of content going into the world. And there was actually a slide at Devoncroft that showed just this complete, curve up of how much content is going around the globe, which is great for a lot of vendors and certainly great for a lot of content. But the profitability of the studios has kind of continually gone down, right? Which is why we've seen layoffs and we've had dear colleagues and friends impacted by that. And it's what's happening between the content going up and the costs going up and that, profitability going down. Therein lies the opportunity as a technology company to fill that gap and really get to a place where we can provide solutions that push us forward as an industry together. And we see that profitability go up, right? We see our customers succeed. We see them succeed with their content, and their strategies. And that's where in bringing these solutions together, we see the opportunity. So leaning into that, when you look at, when you're sending content out into the world, taking this really like data-informed strategy position is what we're doing, right? And so when we look at having Studio, and Origin and BB and taking all of the data, right? So, BB is one of the largest aggregators of data, performance insights and being able to feed that into our decision making, saying, I like to use the example of if 80s nostalgic content is trending in Korea with, males 18 to 24, being able to say like, what content do you have, but also how is that reaching your audience? So, right, discoverability. Are there keywords that 18 to 24 demographic of young Korean men are searching for? And is that data in your metadata, right? Because you can have all of that. You can have the right content, but it might not be searchable and findable if you don't have that information. And that's where we bring that information together. And then we, connect that to your title master. That's where you're going to find like, what do I have? And to be able to search and, really use the data to find that content. And then of course, this is a great place to mention the underlying line, which is working with, modern open API, partnerships, integrations. We have, some incredible partners that our customers have connected our systems to, which, once again, is RightsLine and is MediaGenix and some of these other really incredible systems where you got to say, okay, now I know what I want to do and I should do that because this is trending, right? Right now, searches on X and Instagram are showing us that this is trending. What do I have? Do I have the rights for it? What do I need to do next? when we get into the Xytech operations system, which I know a lot of people here have their first stories starting in Xytech. I know I do as well. And so when you get into that operations system, then you say, what do I need to do? Do I need to order subtitles? Do I need to make this content? Do I need to schedule it? How do I get those assets and that content going? And then how do I facilitate the delivery of that content through the vendors in the ecosystem? Now let's go back and measure, did I make the right decision, right? What was the actual return of that? And also, it would be remiss to not mention that in the Xytech system, we have a lot of financial data being captured. So being able to pull all of this back and start back at the beginning again with the performance trends, did what the decision I make return what I thought it was going to? Therein lies where we're putting these systems together. What I think, if I just pitch this to you, it sounds like euphoria, right? It sounds like we're going to heal the industry, but the nice thing is if I said that to you and I didn't have these systems, if this wasn't a part of the Fabric ecosystem, it would be a very, very ambitious, advantageous, journey for us. But the exciting part, as we look at what the future is and the future of Fabric is that we actually have these pieces, right? We have Studio Plus, right? We have Origin and BB and we have Xytech. So now our job as leadership and as our amazing team is to pull these things together and start offering this data back to the industry to say, use a data-informed strategy as you go forward so that you are able to get your content to the right place at the right time in the moment to the right audience. And let's start really driving that profitability back up.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Kara. We've been pitching this, as you can imagine, 8 or 9 times over the last 2 days. And one of the things that I summarized this with, to put a finer point on it, and it's kind of appropriate for Vegas too, just because you can doesn't mean you should. In other words, we're scattershotting content and we're distributing it all over the place, but maybe we could provide a little more data and analytics to get a much more targeted audience and revenue model related to it. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan McKee to talk through a little bit more detail of what these products are for those of you who don't know.
Cool. Thanks, Rob. So, importantly, all these products will continue to be offered as standalone products should you want to use them standalone. But from a product and technology perspective, what we're really doing is bringing them all together so they work seamlessly if you are a user of multiple products. So I actually like to look at this kind of right to left. If you have BB and Origin on the right there, these are really our data products. What I think is amazing is if you've seen a trailer online or if you're looking at data, media, metadata online somewhere, there's a good chance it came from BB or Origin, even if you didn't know it. So these really rich, deep data sets that we now control and own and are serving our users with. So right to left, if you look at these as data products, we're bringing that data into Studio and Xytech, which are really where you visualize, manage, and produce, curate new data. So we're flowing the data into these systems, allowing users to see that data, interact with that data, and produce new data. And then if you look back at the other slide where Kara had the loop back, when you produce and curate new data, we're feeding that into the data sets to make them even better over time. So we have this really amazing suite of products that were all amazing in their own right, and now we're making them all work together from a product and technology perspective. And then also what I'll mention on the technology side is by aligning the technology stacks, we're making sure that my team is cross-pollinating internally. So ultimately, it benefits all of our customers when we're sharing information about how we build and improve this next generation of amazing media products.
Yeah, that's great. And so now I'm going to jump into more of okay, that's a great story, right? Yay. But what are you going to do to each one of these to sort of move the bar forward? So let's start with the studio side. So we have a product that our customers currently use and love called Studio. Not to be too cheeky, but the upgrade version is Studio Plus. It's a little better. But it does a couple things. One is we're taking the lessons learned from our Studio product that was out there, and we're integrating it more consistently and effectively with the data sources. So, for example, we've included things like natural language search, so you can just say, give me some Tom Hanks Christmassy movies, It's going to tell you all of those that exist in your catalog or in third-party catalogs, right? And that can be origin. If you have a license with things like IMDb or Gracenote, those can show up too. And when you pull those in, they then become part of your own catalog. So just making that a very quick and efficient process. It's definitely more aligned directly with IDER. So everything that gets created can be authored, can be registered within the IDER framework, and using that as the sort of like cornerstone. I've said this all along the studio journey, but the last thing we want to do is create yet another identification system for this industry. Like, we got one. It's called IDER. Let's use it and really lean into it.
Shout out to IDER, apparently.
Where's IDER? Oh yeah, right. Good. And then the other thing, and there's two other points to this. One is the studio product allowed a tremendous amount of customization and configuration. So if you really wanted to call the field genres something else, you could. Studio Plus won't let you do that anymore. You can extend the data architecture, but you can't fundamentally change it, because if you change it, you actually get rid of the capabilities around interoperability between business partners and enrichment sources and everything else. So we wanted to avoid the whole complications of mapping data in, like, oh, this person calls it this thing, and it's really this thing, and doing that. So really just sort of standardize that by looking across how our customers commonly use it. And then as a final point, we also, from the adoption of Studio, we had these customers that were running 10,000 API calls a minute against the Studio product. We can handle it, but that's a pretty high volume. So we re-architected alongside AWS in partnership, migrating the database into key value pair DynamoDB, which can handle parallel reads at massive scale. So that's pretty exciting. That's in beta today, and we're just going to keep iterating on it from here. I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan to talk through the future of Xytech.
Yeah. So Studio Plus is really our next generation architecture, if you will, that is making sure that we are set up for the scale that all of our customers require, right? So we have this love suite of products that people are using maybe far beyond our original wildest imaginations. And so my team's been hard at work making sure that we introduce the performance and scale and continue to scale with our customers. And that's true for Xytech as well. So Xytech has a super rich, deep ecosystem of tools. That tool set is amazing, but we are focused on how do we make that more performant and more scalable over time. So we are undergoing migration to AWS Cloud, supported by our amazing partners at Amazon Web Services and Commit. And that's going really, really well. Performance improvements are through the roof currently. So we're really excited about that and aligning that tech stack again on AWS and benefiting. All the products are going to benefit from the shared infrastructure, the shared alignment on the tech stack, and all be kind of the tide rise, or all boats rise as the tide rises, whatever that saying is. So that's kind of where we're headed. And on top of that, what that enables kind of long term is, right, once we've got this technology stack enabled, we're more performant, we're more scalable. We're starting to introduce kind of next generation of APIs. So having that interface layer at the API level, and then we're going to build new and simpler UX UI on top of that. So you'll still have the same products that you know and love, but we'll be able to provide things like the new mobile experience for Xytech, which I think Rob's going to talk about in just a second.
Yep. So let's talk about that. The best part about Xytech is that it's been around for a long time and has a lot of functionality. The worst part about Xytech is it's been around a long time and has a lot of functionality. And that's just to say that, you know, when you're running a software application, especially for a media or an industry like ours that has deep functionality, the industry changes, the software changes, and at some point you have to kind of look at what's being used and how the user base is interacting with the software. So what we did is we went out to our customer base and we looked at how people are using Xytech today. And we found pretty consistently that we have two groups of users. The darker red core users who are running very complex operations around scheduling people, places, things, media orders, bid requests, localizations, you name it, in Xytech. And they're in there, you know, not 24/7, but, you know, all day long. And they're pretty happy. They love the functionality set. They're going to really, really benefit from these performance improvements and scalability improvements. But the UI, like for them, it's actually all right. Then you've got this next group, which is, I call them casual users, which is a much bigger set of users. And these are people at our customer organizations with Xytech that need to go in and find something quick or update something quick. And they are frustrated because the UI is a little more outdated, right? I think you find this with software when we're all used to doing our banking and our social media in these beautiful platforms, and you have to log into a business system and you're like, what do you mean I can't find the thing I'm looking for? We tend to get really frustrated these days. So we're introducing this Xytech mobile app, and it's in beta. It's launched today. The first version is launched and live. And the intention is to take the casual users away from the legacy Xytech UI and move them into a much cleaner, slimmed down, hey, I need to find the status of this media order. Oh, hey, wait, I need to find my schedule for the day. Where do I need to be? Oh, I need to enter time against my schedule. Just these like simple functions that don't require all the data on the very, very detailed screens that we have. And so our strategy around this is to continue to canvas our customers and build out that functionality in this lighter weight product. And that's very excited about that on the Xytech mobile side. I'm going to turn it over to Tom, who can talk about how we integrate a lot of this data through to the product.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And to do a short intro on BB Media, BB Media was 38 years old as a company, and we had been doing market research and consultancy and analytics. And the main question was, can we monitor, can we understand every streaming service in existence at a global scale? And is that even possible to keep track of? Right now, we have well above 1,600 streaming services that we're keeping track of, the countries where they're available, so it is being supplied to the users in each market globally, and their prices, all their catalogs, and then we do the demand side of it. So how many users did it got? What is the NPS? Are the users happy or not? How many of them are subscribing to one business model or to another? From which devices? But then also the entire catalogs of everything that's available on every single one of these streaming services being updated on a daily basis, bringing in all the metadata and understanding what's happening with the market. What are we offering to the users, to the viewers, and what response are we getting from them? So a lot of companies here to make that happen, okay? So are we doing a good job or are we not doing a good job? So this is what we've been after for quite some time. And now being part of Fabric and seeing everything come together, it's actually a lot of fun. If we can go to the next one, please, because I have two examples here. So have you seen this movie? It's like an Oscar winner now, like Best International Film, Flow from Latvia. And this is the current status, okay? They just won the Oscar. And they have a very good, what we have our demand metric. So at a global scale, they're like a very good score for demand. And they're currently on transactional streaming services across a limited set of markets. In some markets, they are already available in subscription business models, okay? Now, where is this headed? And this is going to what Rob was saying before. You can do something. It doesn't mean you should. If you go to the next slide, please. And here we've got this movie won the Best International Film, also an independent film, and they won the Oscar too. So how did that evolve over time for them, the availability and the demand? You can see that, timeline and, quick GIF over there. But it went from transactional to subscription to free with ads in just a year's time. Well, a little bit about 1 year. So is that the best thing that we could do for distribution for an independent film? May or may not be. Just because you can put your content out there on free with ads doesn't mean you should. So this is what we're focusing on, and where by looking at all the metadata, all the availability, the demand metrics at a global scale for each market and demographic, then we can come back to, for every part of the value chain, have an answer if we're doing a good job or not, and where we can improve that based on hard data that is always up to date. And, huge analytics thanks to our CTO. So we will have another presentation at the AWS Theater at 11. Yeah, and we will be sharing way more insights. So if you want to join, feel free to drop by.
Great. It would I also wanted to talk, it's like you go around the show floor and you talk about sort of like buzzwords. Agentic AI is probably the one that I hear every second sentence. So I should do my own. No, in all fairness, I think that it is actually fundamentally changing some of the things that we're doing from an application perspective. So on the Studio side, Studio Plus, this natural language searching, and we're actually doing natural language updating. In other words, hey, go find Wheel of Fortune and change all the genres to include these keywords, and we'll go and update 15,000 episodes, right down the chain. And then doing things like record validation. So how good is this metadata if you want to distribute it in Latvia? Not so good. Do you want me to propose some better Latvian terms based upon the BB data set? So pretty fun things there. Same with Xytech around schedule optimization. In the slide that Kier went through, there's a little box that hangs off where it's like tracking sort of like into an AI model what people are doing. We'll be working on that as well. In fact, most of these are either in a beta or are live in the products today. On the Origin and BB side, this idea of like we're getting trending information. You'll see this graph where it's like, oh, flow is trending like crazy right now. Yeah, but why? And like that why is kind of a hard question to answer because it could be the result of any one of n data points down the chain. But AI is really good at figuring that out. So it's like, oh, it's because unfortunately Val Kilmer passed away that Tombstone is very popular right now, or it spiked. That was a kind of a morbid example. I should have found a better one. And then on the internal side, like we're seeing some pretty big performance improvements for our own dev teams, using AI co-pilots and those things that, I think if we weren't using, it's just, wouldn't be taking advantage of what's out there. When we talk about sort of the BB media architecture, Origin is really the basis for that. So Origin is that title master that we're plugging then those analytics and insights on top of. So I definitely wanted to, make a comment around that. And it is used today, sort of anyone who needs an additional data source or trailers to power a consumer end service. That is the product. And going forward to kind of like cap it off, going forward, Origin and BB will be baked into the two products that are out there, which is Studio and Xytech. And so that's it. That wraps us up. That's kind of, what we're up to, what we're doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to end really quickly. And first of all, once again, thank everybody for coming. I hope that we answered some questions on, what the blank is Fabric doing. I also wanted to sort of like lay a little tagline that we've been kind of going with, which is if you think of all of these different things and all of the data that we're bringing and the problem we're trying to solve, just to put it into one sentence is we hope that in the very near future you open up Fabric and your question of the day is Fabric, what should I do today? And then that's essentially, all of the questions that we want to answer depending on whether you're someone who schedules something, you're sending content, you want to know what you should sell, you want to know what that value is going to bring, and you want to drive a new strategy forward. Fabric, what should I do today?
Yeah, exactly. So what's next for us? You can find us at just over there in the cabanas if you want to have more conversation right there. We also have a suite at the Fontainebleau for more in-depth meetings. Then today, Tom mentioned this, there's a streaming data gazing and global trends in Theater 1343. And then I'll be doing a session with Naima from AWS on why we migrated Xytech's existing cloud infrastructure to AWS and what we did later today. So feel free to join us with any one of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.